Hi, I'm Simon Sheikh from GetUp, here on the ground in Copenhagen. The GetUp team have been here since Sunday, and our task is really to design actions that are relevant, that are timely, that are impactful for GetUp members, for you back there all across Australia, and indeed GetUp members from across the world. We're here because we care about climate change. That part's obvious. But what do we actually need in these negotiations? I thought I might spend the next couple of minutes taking you through what some of the key asks are here at the end of the first day. For a long time in the GetUp office we've used the phrase, just make it fabulous, and a fab agreement is exactly what we're after here in Copenhagen. So what does that mean? Well, it means targets, finance, and a legal form that actually makes sense. So let's have a little chat about that. First of all, on targets, we know that the science demands that this conference, the Copenhagen COP15 conference, calls on 40% targets, actually locks in 40% plus targets. That's what the science demands. But also on targets, we're looking to make sure that there aren't loopholes, that there aren't, for example, policies that allow governments to just simply buy offsets from other countries. Buy offsets in an unlimited way would really undermine the targets that are on the table. Now, the second thing we're after is an agreement on finance. We know that without finance we simply won't get a deal. Developing countries simply won't sign up unless we get finance on the table. So what does that mean? Well, what we're looking for is an agreement that unlocks $95 billion by 2020 for low emissions development and $100 billion each year by 2020 on a deal to really support developing countries adapt to climate change. These are grants for what they're calling a climate insurance pool. Now, a couple of important things to note on finance. Number one is that what we need to secure is announcements from the Australian government and others that any deal on finance will be in addition to the existing overseas development assistance. And without this kind of assistance, developing countries simply won't sign up to a global deal. On the legal form, which I think is also really important, there's a lot of conversations going on at the moment about what is possible here in Copenhagen. We know that as soon as possible, we need to lock in a global treaty, the next phase of the Kyoto Protocol that came into force in 2005. Now what that means is that we need rules and procedures, processes if you like, for an international deal that ensures countries actually reduce their emissions. So on the legal form and on compliance, there are really two prospects that we can see. First of all, there is the prospect that we leave here with a multilateral agreement. That is an agreement where countries agree to go away and take emission reduction activities without verifiable action. And we must make sure that this agreement, by the time we leave, allows us to verify exactly what countries will be doing. And we must also have a compliance mechanism, that is punitive measures and incentive-based measures that mean that countries will actually live up to what they agree here in Copenhagen. So what are the chances? Well, really we've seen two scenarios develop that we want to tell you about. There are a number, but here are the two key ones. One is that politicians, leaders who will be coming to Copenhagen next week will leave here with a greenwash agreement. That is an agreement on finance, for example, where they focus on short-term startup finance and not the long-term predictable finance that developing countries need. On a legally binding agreement, we may end up with a greenwash scenario. That is one where there's a politically binding agreement that doesn't include things like compliance mechanisms, that throws out the Kyoto Protocol rules without replacing them with something better. So we'll be following the issues over the coming days and bringing you some fantastic actions that you can do from home. For example, we'll be aiming to meet with negotiators tomorrow from Australia to work out what is going on with land use, land clearing and forestry. There is the potential that there could be some loopholes that the Australian government could possibly choose to pursue that would mean that we wouldn't actually be reducing our emissions by the number we agree to because of some ways they can fudge the accounting procedures. We'll be looking into issues like that tomorrow. We'll be looking into finance, and we'll be making sure that on day 2, day 3, day 4 and beyond, we give you actions that are timely, relevant and impactful. If you've got questions on what's going on the ground here in Copenhagen, we'd love to hear them on the blog, and we'd love to read them there, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Hope it's useful. Cheers.